Derby County were reportedly set to look at a range of free agents on Thursday afternoon, but with the news of Paul Warne sacking coming just one day later, does that mean that those free agents are off the table and Derby County aren't still looking? We're going to talk about it in this video with obviously a formal approach going in for John Eustace just this morning. It's going to be a massive situation for Derby County to contend with. We know that the squad is lacking a bit of depth in a few areas, not just down to injuries, but also down to some players who we let go in the January window. And it's a big question now to see who Derby County could potentially bring in over the course of this free agent period to see how they could improve the squad. Now, obviously, with a formal approach going in for John Eustace, it's a massive deal, and he'll obviously want say in who those signings are potentially going to be. But you look at the players we've already brought in, and Selverson is a definite improvement on James Collins. Langas, in my opinion, is equal to, if not better, than Erin Cashin, and in my opinion is already better than Curtis Nelson. You then look at the signing of Harrison Armstrong, who I'm not entirely sure about yet. Looked okay on debut yesterday, but ultimately it was a very tricky game to get into, with it being a little bit end-to-end and the style of football that we were playing, which was obviously Paul Warne's style of play. And then obviously on to Matt Clark, who in my opinion is one of the best centre-backs in the Championship, and the fact that we was able to get him on board with Erin Cashin leaving was an absolute mega deal. Now, when we're looking at free agents, what sort of players will Derby County need? In my opinion, wide areas and central midfield are the two areas where I would personally be looking, maybe even a left back as well, although I don't particularly know many free agents which are about. There is the likes of Ryan Kent, who I believe is still without a club, who could be an absolute massive signing for Derby County, and obviously you've got those attitude issues and potential wage issues as well with that. But for me, I can't see Derby County moving away from potentially looking at free agents, even with Paul Warne moving away, because I just think that we're still going to need that extra depth. Now, I do believe that any moves that were potentially in the works may currently be on a standby as Derby County try and sort out who their new manager could be. In my personal opinion, we wouldn't have made a formal approach for John Eustace unless we had some sort of confirmation that a deal could be done. That's just my personal opinion though, but there is reports of two other candidates for Derby County to potentially be chasing. Rumours suggest that one of them is Nigel Clough, not one I'm particularly impressed with, and I have no idea who the second one is. Could be someone foreign, or could be a potential target like David Wagner, or maybe even a Neil Warnock type signing to keep us up till the end of the season. Now, obviously, in terms of free agents, obviously there's going to be many available at this point in the season, and the big question really should be is, with these free agents that are potentially available, why have they been without a club? Have they been injured? Have they recently been released due to squad issues in January? Like, you've got all these questions that you can ask. Obviously, there's a player, Daniel Armati, former Leicester, I believe, unbelievable player, just suffered a lot with injuries. Obviously, there's Wissam Ben Yedder, who's obviously not going to come to Derby County. You've got the likes of Serge Aurier, Brandon Williams, obviously Ryan Kent, who I mentioned earlier. Like, there's plenty of players out there who could potentially come in and add to Derby County's squad. Now, the big discussion will be is how quickly can they be fit and available. You've also got, I think his name's Reina, a Brazilian winger, who at one point was a Football Manager wonder kid. So you've got a load of players who are potentially available for Derby County to be able to go and pick up. Ivan Cavallero, former Fulham, I believe. And it's one of those where there's so many players who could improve Derby County, could improve the squad tenfold in this bid for survival in the Championship. But you've also got to keep note of the fact that we are going to be on sort of a strict budget, and it's one of those situations which Derby County have to sort of keep an eye on, because we do need a winger, in my opinion, because obviously the situation that we have with Corey Blackett-Taylor being injured, Tom Barkhazen doesn't necessarily feel as if he's going to be fit for a while. You've also got Tom Barkhazen, who realistically isn't necessarily in the plans. Now, obviously, I do think that bringing in a free agent will be a good thing. I think we probably need two, maybe three. But it's one of those for me where we're going to be waiting 3 or 4 weeks before they're even fit enough to play. And that's something which isn't necessarily a big problem. You could probably give them 2 weeks and then they can be on the bench, things like that. But it is certainly one of those where I think it's the situation where they'll come in probably on trial for two-ish weeks, see how quick they can get their fitness up, and if they're ready after two-ish weeks, put a contract on the table, bring them in the door. But it was obviously going to depend on those situations based on fitness levels. You obviously have to talk about obviously Brian Nyambi was a player who we bought in a similar sort of situation where we needed a right back because Jake Rooney had got injured, had tore his ACL. Joe Ward had ripped the fat pad off his ankle. And Kane Wilson wasn't fit either after his, I think it was a knee injury that he came to us with from Bristol City. So just because they're a free agent doesn't necessarily mean they're bad players. It just means they've not been able to find the right club or not been able to find the right offer. Now, the big question will be, how quickly can Derby get John Eustace over the line, if it is John Eustace, and how quickly can Derby County then get those free agents in the building and training? Because for me, this certainly has to be a quick process. We have a game on Tuesday night, which I believe we're going to want John Eustace at the helm for. I'm going to record my preview after this video because it's one of those situations where it's difficult to see Derby County going into that game with Matt Hamshaw and Andy Warrington again. But ultimately, it's not impossible to see, but it's difficult to see it because they're sort of going to stick to the same philosophies that we've seen under Paul Warne, and it's going to be that similar sort of style, whereas we really need that change as quickly as possible, especially with next week. I believe we've got 2 games in a week. We're playing on, I think it's Monday and then on Friday. I'm just going to check to make sure that is correct. I believe we play... it's either Monday or Tuesday and then Friday as well. We play Tuesday the 11th and Friday the 14th, 3 days in between, against Oxford and then away to QPR. And we really need John Eustace in for that game. Now, obviously, as I'm recording this video, John Eustace is about to take a match for Blackburn Rovers. They kick off in about an hour's time up against Wolves in the FA Cup. Now, the lineups aren't yet out, but I imagine he'll stick with that sort of 4-2-3-1 formation that he's been playing commonly. Obviously, they've brought in the likes of Emmanuel Dennis, Todd Cantwell, Adam Forshaw, but there's a load of problems at Blackburn Rovers, and it is a situation where some of those players are out of contract at Blackburn at the end of this season, and if he believes they're good enough to improve our squad, there is definitely a situation where Derby County could pick up 2, 3, 4, 5 players from Blackburn Rovers in the summer, and it's not necessarily something that I'd be necessarily disappointed in, given their league position at the moment, sitting 6th in the league after 31 games, 13 wins, 6 draws, 12 defeats, 45 points. Yes, they're on a bit of a difficult run at the moment with 4 losses in their last 5 games, but they have had quite a bit of a tricky run with the likes of newly revived Oxford United, Coventry City on their revival as well, Bristol City, a very good team, and obviously QPR, who are finding their way up the table as well. So can John Eustace come into Derby County Monday morning and have the team training? I personally think that is certainly possible. I certainly believe that there is a situation where Derby County could have John Eustace announced first thing tomorrow morning, have him taking training, but it is going to be sort of a very difficult situation to see how that develops over the course of the next few hours as time passes before this video comes out, as this will be dropped at 6 p.m. There'll be another video tomorrow previewing obviously Oxford United, as well as taking a potential look into the announcement of John Eustace, should that announcement come tomorrow, which I'm personally anticipating it will do. I can't see why we would make a formal approach without that already being sort of in the works. So obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will catch you in my next video.